Do you think Xerxes is misunderstood by history?
Absolutely.
Or by history writers?
Absolutely.
Tell us how.
And it's really a shame. Well, okay. To preface this, I'd like to say, people do ask, well, why not Cyrus? Why not Darius? And I say, well, that's great. Cyrus, my goodness, how incredible is he, the legacy he left behind, and the same goes for Darius as well.
He established the first democracy in the world.
And to me, they're like superheroes. They're what you aspire to be. And Xerxes, while a great king himself.
And how he's misunderstood.
And, well, definitely. He's misunderstood. He's the one who aspired to be like them. He's us. He had the drive and the desire to be, to reach their... Right, to reach their superhero status, though, of Cyrus and Darius. But what just caught my eye about him was that I could identify with him. He wanted to do such wonderful things.
What he wanted to establish, really, after, let's say, Darius?
Well, the Persian Empire was founded upon the idea of good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And these men and women believed that they really were the guardians of the world. They represented good on earth. And so long as they ruled, evil could never have a chance to rise up. And Cyrus expanded the empire based on these principles of one world of many people.
Interesting.
And Xerxes wanted to continue in that endeavor, to unite the world under one empire. And basically, you know, the best intentions can...
Do you remember in your research what he did actually to achieve that, as far as bringing people together?
Well, he tried very hard, and this is where his campaign against Greece comes into play, which is grossly misunderstood as...
We're talking about movie 300?
Oh, yes.
Do you want to touch on that?
Sure. I'll also preface that by saying, you know, 300's entertainment, and I understand that it's based off a comic book. It's not supposed to be taken as a literal historical account, that it's fantastical. But if that's all the case, then why not write something completely fictional? Why Xerxes? Why
bring some facts of history into it and then mess it up?
And not only that, and maybe I would not have even minded that so much had they not changed the motivation of the characters, and that's what they did with this.
I see.
Xerxes went to war against Greece because, for two reasons. The Athenians, during his father's reign, had launched an attack on a Persian capital, Sardis. It was basically tantamount to a terrorist attack. It was their, I guess you could say it was their version of 9/11. And so Darius didn't even really know who these Athenians were at the time. And so there was the Battle of Marathon under his reign as well, where he tried to get vengeance for that attack. It didn't go well. And during Xerxes' rule, there were still people who were upset, who still wanted the Athenians punished for this attack on their capital. Xerxes was very against going to war initially, but his military kept convincing him that this was a campaign that needed to be waged, as well as Greek exiles were coming to him and saying, come to Greece, you know, and we'll be friends of Persia. And there were even kings who were still ruling who were inviting him into Greece. And not only that, but oracle mongers were telling him that he was destined.
Was destined to do this.
Destined to do it. So all of this pressure was on his shoulders, and he finally conceded, okay, this is my purpose. This is how I can live up to Cyrus and Darius. And so he went. You have to also remember, Greece at this time wasn't Greece like we know it to. You know, Greece was extremely fractured. This was not the heartland of democracy. This was a conglomerate of city-states, and they were constantly at odds with one another, waging wars. And the Spartans were definitely, and this is another thing, you know, as far as the 300 goes, the Spartans were definitely no defenders or lovers of democracy by any means.
Exactly. I remember I watched it on History Channel, or part of it, and at the very end, that's very troubling. It says that if it wasn't for Greeks, there would not be a democracy today, and democracy would have been vanished by Persian king.
And I do not
Xerxes.
believe that.
Of course, that's totally untrue. But that's what's troubling, when they distort everything for whatever purpose. I think that's...
You know, they tend to forget in that instance.
Let's get back to your story. I like to ask you, because it's a good point to ask you this question. How do you think the present, our present, is mirroring the past? How this book is relevant today to what's going on now? If you can just tell us briefly.
Oh, certainly. It was actually very troubling. I'd already begun writing Xerxes, but I don't want anybody to think that the vein I took with the story was being influenced by what I was seeing on the news. It wasn't. It was just that
I believe you started that way before the movie, right?
Oh, this before 300. Sure. Oh, absolutely. I'm just saying, I don't want people to think that the way I wrote it was influenced by our news today. It just so happened it is really literally that close to what has happened. Again, the attack on Persia was very much like what happened here. Xerxes again, or the Persian Empire, was at this time period very much the melting pot. It was the world's greatest empire, tolerant kings. It was very much the United States of its day. And essentially, Xerxes himself, in many ways, I mean, here he has people telling him he's destined to do it, exiles, just like Iraqi exiles, Ahmed Chalabi, coming to say, oh yeah, come to Iraq, you'll see flowers and candy. And that's what
misleading.
Exactly happened to Xerxes as well. Come into Greece; they'll welcome you.
The opposition. Yes. The opposition misled him.
Exactly.
As the opposition, Iraqi opposition, misled
And
United
then what
States.
ended up happening to Xerxes, the Greeks united against him. Initially, they were okay. He conquered most of it. And people tend to forget that because of the Battle of Thermopylae. And they say, oh, the Spartans won. No, the Spartans didn't win. They withstood for a few days. Xerxes finally broke through. They went on down, took Athens, sacked Athens. And so essentially, he had initial success, just mission accomplished.
Yeah,
halfway. Exactly.
And then,
and
the movie
unfortunately, this is really Xerxes, his top general. This is really his war, Mardonius. And Mardonius was left in Greece with 120-some thousand troops, maybe. The Greeks were able to unite the Spartans and the Athenians, who were originally at odds. You can maybe think of them as Sunni and Shia. You could. And
so there are a lot of parallels.
Yeah,
in this
absolutely.
book. That's fascinating. I mean, it's so timely. I guess your book is really absolutely timely. Let's point out, I understand that this is also a screenplay.
Yes.
In other words, you showed me that the first part is actually written as a screenplay.
Actually, yeah, the whole book.
The whole book is as a screenplay. Okay, tell us about it.
It was originally written to be a film, a huge film, major epic. We're thinking, Lawrence of Arabia.
That's
type.
beautiful
Right.
for a young person like you. This is
Thank
quite
you.
a
we're
feat.
hoping. Yeah, we're currently trying to obtain financing for that. But when I didn't want to sit around and just let it sit there, because I knew, with it being so timely and with it resonating so profoundly with what was happening, this needed to be out now. And it also with the conflict between, Israel and you also have to remember Xerxes, he's also in the Bible. He's known as Ahasuerus in the Bible.
Exactly. I wanted to touch on that, that you brought it up, because part of this story, you say about 2/3 into this story, you get into this love story of Esther and Xerxes, which is, you said, like soap opera and all that juicy things. But besides that juicy thing, there are two important things here to ask. Number one, because you have written this as a screenplay, of course, we all know screenplay and cinema is different from book.
Yes.
For cinema, you have to dramatize, you have to make it more even juicy and things like that. How can you stay on the facts, not to distort the facts, and make your film?
Well, there's always this saying, truth is stranger than fiction, and sometimes real events are more interesting than anything you could conjure up. With the exception of some things, obviously no one was there to write.
In other words, how you balanced it, that's my question.
Well, actually, it's pretty much all factual. I was able to do that just because his life was that interesting. As far as other things, of course, it's dramatized history. No one was there to transcribe everything that anyone ever said, and from point A to point B. But and there are a few flourishes there, of course, for the Hollywoodisms.
Yeah.
But I can really stand behind this book and say I've written